Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are taking a really fascinating look at the principles from Michael Thompson's book, Shy by Design. 12 timeless principles to quietly stand out. And our mission for you is, I think, really focused. We want to pull out the truly actionable knowledge for anyone who wants to build real influence, real connections, but do it while staying true to their quieter nature.
And look, for anyone thinking this is just another networking for introverts talk, we have to start with this one story that just flips the whole idea on its head.
Okay.
Thompson talks about his son, Liam. He's a naturally shy kid, even had a noticeable speech impediment. So at the end of first grade, the teacher asks all the kids to write down the name of the classmate they appreciated the most.
Okay, so let's unpack this. What was the result?
Liam and several of the other really reserved kids in the class, they just completely dominated that list.
Wow.
The teacher even told him she sees this pattern every single year with the quiet ones. And it made her question, who the truly popular kids are. It just perfectly sets the stage. Influence isn't about being the loudest person in the room.
No, it's about the consistent impact of your presence.
Exactly.
And that's the perfect entry point, really, because Thompson's own story is rooted in this, profound personal struggle. He grew up not just with shyness, but with crippling social anxiety and a really severe stutter.
Yeah, and not just any stutter. He specifically struggled with words starting with
Think about that. He couldn't easily say his own name, Michael.
Yeah.
And then his first job was selling mortgages.
And that choice, that job choice, is what makes his whole story so compelling. Most people, they run towards comfort. Thompson was so afraid of never finding his voice that he ran toward the one profession that terrified him: sales.
It was almost like a desperate move, wasn't it? Just forcing himself into those situations so he wouldn't feel like a fool forever.
Exactly. But if you're going into sales, a field built on, speed and charm and bravado, how do you close deals with just kindness and listening? It feels like a huge risk.
So how did he do it?
He realized, and he realized it pretty quickly, that he couldn't play their game. He came up with what he calls the central mindset flip. It was, I'll never win if I play their game, so I invented my own.
I love that.
And his success, it didn't come from trying to be someone else. It came from realizing that there's beauty in our perceived weaknesses.
And this is where it gets really good. That belief, it got validated at a sales seminar of all places. There was this high-energy keynote speaker who said something that, for Thompson, was a total revelation.
Right. The speaker just throws this line out there. He says, if you're having trouble getting people to talk stutter, they'll see you as a human being instead of a salesperson.
Wow.
And that was the moment. That was the click. Thompson realized his stutter wasn't a liability. It was a unique selling point. It was a vulnerability that made him instantly relatable, trustworthy.
So he just pivoted his whole focus.
Completely. Away from rehearsed lines and toward listening, reliability, and just, kindness.
So the core lesson here, this is principle 1, is that you have to prioritize comfort over confidence. Confidence can be intimidating, but comfort is inviting. And he has this really tactical tip for it. Always stand to the side.
Yes. And that simple physical act is so powerful, and the why behind it is what's key. When you stand to the side, you're never blocking someone's path.
You're not a confrontation.
Exactly. You're minimizing any demand on their time. You're basically respecting their option to leave, which paradoxically makes them way more likely to approach you and actually stay and talk.
Just lowers their defenses right away. Okay, so that idea of creating space, both physical and mental, that leads us right into his communication strategy. Principle 2, lead with listening.
Yeah, and this came from his speech therapist, who told him something pretty direct. She said, your challenge is you get so caught up in what you're going to say and how other people perceive you, you don't truly listen to anyone.
Oof. That's a tough pill to swallow. But it's so true for so many of us, right? Especially if you have any social anxiety, you're just rehearsing your next line.
You're not processing what's actually being said. The goal isn't just hearing words. It's about quieting that internal voice so you can create space for the other person to reveal themselves.
And he gives us tools for that, these 2 conversation personas. The first one is the feather.
The feather is all about your mental prep. It means you go into a conversation feeling light because you've already unpacked your own personal stress before you start talking.
Right. If your cup is full of your own anxieties, you've got no room for anyone else's experience.
You have zero mental bandwidth left.
But what about when you're caught off guard?
Yeah.
You're in a hallway, your cup is full. Is there a technique for that?
Yeah, he suggests the fastest way to lighten that load is just through Radical acknowledgement. Internally, you just admit to yourself, okay, I am really stressed right now. And then you consciously pick one little worry and just set it aside until the conversation's over.
It's like a micro moment of mindfulness.
Exactly. It stops anxiety from just totally dominating your ability to listen.
I love that. And the second persona is the smart parrot. This isn't just about repeating things back.
No, it's reflective listening.
Yeah.
And it's so critical for quiet people. You're summarizing what you heard, but in your own words, and you're not just repeating facts, you're reflecting the emotion behind them.
So, it sounds like you're feeling really overwhelmed by this whole merger process.
Yes, or it seems like you have a ton on your plate. How are you handling all that? It's so powerful because it requires very little original output from you, but it maximizes the connection. It proves you understood, and that validates the other person.
And once you're really listening, that unlocks the next step, principle 3. Treat your curiosity as your primary responsibility. And he uses that great quote from Ted Lasso, "Be curious, not judgmental."
Oh, it's the perfect example. In the show, that line explains why Ted, this total underdog, wins a high-stakes dart match. His opponent spent the whole time judging him, his looks, his simple attitude.
Right. And he never bothered to ask the one curious question that mattered.
Have you played a lot of darts, Ted? Judgment just shuts down the flow of information. Curiosity opens the door to someone's real story.
So the practical tool here for applying that curiosity is what he calls explorer questions.
Yes. These are open-ended questions. They're designed not to feel like you're interrogating someone, but to just gently guide them to share the richer details of their experience. The focus is all on their motivation, their feeling.
So you want to use phrases that invite a story, not just a yes or no.
Exactly. Things like, I'm curious, what was it like to face that challenge? Or, wow, that took a lot of guts. What motivated you to make such a big change?
And he makes a great point about pre-padding your questions with phrases like, I'm curious,
Yeah.
or I hadn't thought of that. It just softens the whole thing, makes it feel more like a real conversation.
So if we move from the art of conversation to the strategy of connection, that brings us to principle 5. Get to know your heroes. And he tells this amazing story about Kevin Irvin Kelly. He's the co-founder of the design firm Shook Kelly.
Right, so Kelly was young, buried in student debt, and he makes what seems like a crazy decision. He spends a ton of money to go to a Harvard course. Why?
Simply because his idol, the legendary architect Gene Cohn, was teaching it. His family thought he was being completely reckless.
But he knew he needed to be near the people who were making the kind of impact he wanted to make.
And his approach is just the perfect blueprint for a quiet professional. He didn't try to ambush Cohn or, impress him with some flashy pitch. He just sat quietly, he learned, and he focused on submitting work that was absolutely impeccable.
And it worked.
It worked. Cohn saw Kelly's project, was so impressed by the sheer substance of it that he immediately invited him to lunch.
And that single act, just showing up, being curious, doing great work, that turned into an 11-year mentorship.
And eventually, Kelly was co-teaching the course right alongside his hero. It just shows you don't need charisma. You need genuine effort and curiosity.
So what about outreach? Kelly's method for reaching other heroes is a great low-friction strategy.
It's amazing. He used handwritten letters. And get this, he still uses them today for cold outreach. He knew he'd get a low response rate, maybe 5%. But he said that the 5% that did reply made all the difference.
For those of us using email, Thompson has some advice there too. He says the subject line, "Thank you," is consistently the most effective.
Right, because think about it. Most high-level inboxes are just full of people asking for things, making demands, not showing sincere appreciation.
And the formula for the message itself is key. It's authentic, it's brief.
It's, thanks to you doing X, I've been able to achieve Y. This is so important. It shows the person exactly how their work or their idea positively impacted you. So, for example, thanks to your book on negotiation, which is X, I landed a second interview, which is Y.
You're proving you're not just a fan. You're a learner who takes action. That's what mentors are looking for.
Yeah.
Okay, so that outward focus, that naturally leads to principle 8. Gain new eyes through the power of weak ties. This is all based on Mark Granovetter's famous research. Can you just quickly remind us what that research confirmed?
Sure. Granovetter's work basically showed that our weak ties, so acquaintances, old colleagues, people outside our immediate circle, they're often the single best source of new jobs and new opportunities.
We tend to rely on our strong ties, our best friends, our family.
Right, but they share our ecosystem. And what's so fascinating is why those weak ties are so critical.
It's the echo chamber effect.
It's totally the echo chamber effect. Your close friends often share the same news, the same context, the same ideas as you. So if you're looking for something truly new, they can't always help. They're in the same bubble.
But weak ties exist in completely different worlds.
Totally different informational spheres. They expose you to things you would otherwise never hear about. It helps you escape the echo chamber and stay, as he puts it, intellectually alive.
That's a great transition, because if networking is the external game, we have to talk about building confidence internally. This is principle 4, grow your confidence in private. And the main tool here is something he learned from his career coach: write before you speak.
This is such a practical technique, especially for nervous speakers. By writing out your answers to common questions, interview questions, conversation starters, word for word, you just dramatically reduce stuttering and hesitation.
Because you're taking away the pressure of composing on the spot.
Yes, you only have to focus on the mechanical act of delivering something you've already thought through and refined.
And he suggests making this a daily practice, right? Answering 5 reflective questions to build up that internal validation. What kind of questions are we talking about here?
Well, they need to be affirming. So beyond just, what's one thing I'm proud of, you should ask things like, what's one fear I overcame today, no matter how small? Or what compliment did I actually receive and let sink in? Or even, what are my priorities for this week and why do they matter?
It raises self-awareness, but more importantly, it gives you self-validation. You're not waiting for someone else's praise to feel prepared.
You're accumulating daily proof of your own competence.
But that fear, it's still going to hit at some point. So how do we act with courage in that moment of panic? Principle 11 gives us this great micro-step strategy, the AAA Framework.
Right. AAA stands for acknowledge, accept, and ask. So first, you acknowledge what you're feeling. Name the fear, the doubt, whatever it is, no judgment. Second, you accept it. You accept that those feelings are a normal part of being human.
That accept step feels. That feels like the hardest part. It's one thing to acknowledge fear, but accepting it can feel like you're giving into it.
It is the hardest part, but acceptance isn't surrender, it's neutralization. When you stop fighting the fear, you free up all this mental energy for the third step, which is to ask.
Ask.
What do I need so that I can, so for instance, what do I need so that I can feel more prepared for this meeting? It turns fear into a prompt for action. It gives you your agency back.
That's powerful. So we end this deep dive with what is really the ultimate principle of influence, principle 12, lift as you climb. And he tells this beautiful story about a man getting ready for a terrifying journey across the Sahara Desert.
Yeah, the man packs all his supplies, everything he needs to survive. But then right at the end, he packs an extra blanket, just to share.
Wow.
And that image perfectly shows the mindset of quiet influence. It's not about what you can get, it's about what you can share, even when you're uncertain, even when you're facing your own massive challenges.
His mentor, Connor Neal, really drilled this into him.
He did. He taught him that real success in relationships comes down to clarity in your mission, confidence in your actions, and holding tight to your shared values. Because when values align, people are, and I'm quoting here, worth being given a second, 10th, or even 1,000th chance.
Yeah, so if we pull back, the core philosophy of Shy by Design is really this.
Yeah.
True influence isn't about being the loudest person. It's not about putting on a persona.
Not at all.
It comes from being consistently curious, from listening deeply, from making other people feel comfortable, and from, I guess, a quiet thoughtfulness that just consistently adds value to everyone around you.
And here's a final thought for you to explore with all this. Thompson argues that you are already enough, and your stories, especially your struggles, your fear, your doubts, that's a potential gold mine. Because these are the emotions that define the human experience. They let other people know they aren't alone. So the best way, the most profound way to start writing your own influential story is to go out and learn the stories of others. Find those connections and realize that your vulnerability, that's your strength. Go find